equipping you to navigate your grief journey after child and sibling loss. This is the Hope After Child and Sibling Loss podcast. On each episode, we explore the many challenges of grief as guests share their stories of loss. It's also a place where you'll hear about God showing up in our darkest moments and restoring meaning, purpose, and hope to shattered lives. I'm Greg Bufkin, your host and one of the co-founders of the Empty Chair Endeavor. To learn more about us, please visit our website at www.emptychairendeavor.com. Welcome back for a new episode. I'm your host, Greg Bufkin, and today you'll be hearing a conversation I had recently with Roxanne Hutchison. If you need a fresh word of encouragement or hope today, you don't want to miss this conversation. This is a story of resilience and faith in the face of unimaginable suffering and grief in the life of a mom who has lived through the trauma of losing 3 children and a son-in-law. I hope you'll find comfort and hope as Roxanne shares the impact of these losses, how she learned to navigate life again and experience God's healing power over seemingly unrecoverable wounds. And now, here's my conversation with Roxanne. Well, Roxanne, welcome to our podcast. It's so good to have you with us today.
It's great to be with you, and I'm really appreciative of the time that you've put into these podcasts to share the stories with other families. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad to do it. It really is a privilege on my part. One of the things that I love about it the most is getting to meet people like you.
Thanks.
And others who have been through the absolute worst and hear their stories of what God's done and on that healing journey. Well, Roxanne, let's just talk a little bit about you and your husband, Craig, and where you guys live and how you met and that sort of thing. We'll try to keep that to a couple of minutes before we dive into your story. How about that?
Well, Craig and I met at Expo 72 in Dallas, Texas. It was Bill Bright's Student Congress on Evangelism. There were 82,000 youth from all over the world. I was from Lutheran Church in Parma, Ohio. And Craig was from a small Methodist church in Neodesha, Kansas. And we met in a Baptist bookstore
of all places
in Fort Worth, Texas, and literally got married a year later. We will be celebrating 53 years of marriage this coming June. And it's been an emotional ride for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know that we could have gotten through what we've been through without the commitment that we made to each other and to God when we were married. But we never expected, when we got married, we never expected this life that we lived. We had no clue of what was ahead for us. So
if you had a clue, you might have made other decisions.
Well, seriously.
I mean, really.
This has been, because it's been a lifelong endurance. It's been an endurance. It literally has been a run. When you talk about that, I've run the race, that really applies to what we've done.
Because you guys were young when you started initially on your grief journey after losing your daughter to stillbirth, right?
Well, because we actually both we both had been involved in ministry. We were running Bible studies. We did mission trips. We did missions to on Indian reservations and all kinds of different things. So we were always really active. We were actually part of the Jesus movement and so a lot of the people from California we knew, and we were all part of that whole thing. So that movie that came out, the Jesus movie, that was our story. That was us. And
wow.
So we had a really strong foundation. We thought we had a really strong foundation.
Yeah.
And literally our commitment to each other and to God was the framework for our marriage. And I don't think we could have gotten through what we did. Our first child was born in 1977. That's Kristen. And then Jennifer was born in 1979. And Jennifer I had placenta previa with her. So we nearly lost me and Jennifer at 7 months along. And they had said that we could have a natural delivery like a week before. I was on bed rest then, and they said I could have a natural delivery. And then 5 days later, she was dead because when she tried to be born, she strangled on the cord. So it was the hardest thing. I thought it was in labor, and we went to the hospital, and of course they couldn't find a heartbeat. That is one of the hardest things to hear as a mom. And especially when you're full term, you're ready. We had the camera, everything like we did for the first baby, and I did everything natural, no medicines or anything. And so that was it was hard for me. I couldn't understand how God could have allowed that, because I had given him credit that, wow, this was an answer to prayer. We had gotten through this whole thing of possibly losing both our lives, and then she was gone.
How did you process that, Roxanne?
It was really difficult, because I'll tell you what, in 1979, there wasn't much out there for help.
Well, I believe that.
That's when they were really strong with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 Stages of Grief, which Kubler-Ross corrected that later on and said that she was doing that with dying people. It wasn't meant for people with grief. And
precisely.
So a lot of people still don't understand that. They still think that those are the 5 stages of grief. Well, no, not necessarily. Grief is a roller coaster.
Indeed.
And so for me, it was a very isolating experience for me, because there was just nothing. That finally we moved back we were in Oklahoma at the time, and we moved back to Ohio, where I'm from. I just couldn't take the heat out there. And I wanted to be by family. I thought I needed to be by family. And I'm the eldest of 6 kids, and I have such a close-knit family. So I thought, well, there's my support system. What was so strange is when I came back, they didn't know what to do with me, because my sister was pregnant, and she didn't, it was hard for her to be around me. So it was very difficult. It was a very lonely, lonely time. And I got to the point of where one night I was just up really late and sitting in the rocking chair that I should have had a baby being rocked in. And I just said, I just can't take this pain anymore. The pain, I needed the closeness with Jesus. I just needed that closeness. And I just said, whatever it takes, I just need to know that you're near. And I got some peace, and that helped. But we joined Compassionate Friends. There was that group, but it was for children of all different ages. And then when you go in with a neonatal death or a stillborn death, it's not the same for a lot of people. So
right,
it's really difficult for people to experience that.
It's a loss that's very misunderstood.
Yes,
by just about anybody who hasn't experienced it themselves. I've had a number of guests who have lost a child to stillbirth or lost a child to miscarriage.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a very lonely grief, because so few people understand it. A lot of people dismiss it because you actually never had the child.
Right.
You never got to know the child, and all of those misconceptions that go into it. So I get what you're saying, and I suspect a lot of our listeners get that as well.
Well, and the thing is that child was a child of God, and that child
Absolutely
will be waiting for me when I get to heaven. So,
yep.
But I'm really the only one that knew her. Now Craig would read stories to her when I was carrying her and that, but he didn't get to know her the way I felt I knew her. And so it's a lonely thing. And it gave me a much more of appreciation for people that have miscarriages too, because that's a child. And so that was hard. I think that I was 27 I was 29 at the time. And I remember thinking about C.S. Lewis's quote about, you never know how strong a cord is unless you have to hang from it from a precipice. If you use it to cord a box, that's one thing. But if you have to hang from it,
Right.
from a presses, but so it's like you don't know how strong your faith is until it becomes a matter of life or death to you.
And it's tested. Yeah.
And that's how I felt. I was like, okay, this is the most horrible thing that's going to happen to us. I watched my mother raise all 6 of us and end up with grandchildren and then great grandchildren. And I thought, okay, and we're living a life that's honoring God and that. So I thought, okay, we're going to be all right. But we just kept having things happen, like near misses with each of the kids and odd, strange things. It's not like they got cancer or were in accidents or whatever. They got rare things. I took Nathan. I had trouble getting pregnant with Nathan because of the damage that was done trying to get Jennifer out. I had damage. So, but I did get pregnant with Nate, and I had Nate in 1982, and I took him to his 1 month checkup, and Kristen was for her school checkup. And at that checkup, they told me that Kristen had abnormal lymph nodes, that she could have possibly cancer, and that Nathan had a rare form of tumors. I was like,
Oh,
I
gosh.
looked at them and said, "What is this, disease of the day?" I just came here for a
Wow.
baby checkup, a well baby checkup, and a school checkup. I want a different doctor. I'm not,
Yeah, I'll bet.
I couldn't believe it. So we went through 2 years of operations and that with Kristen, and she grew out of it. They said that what happens with kids like that is that sometimes it comes back later in their life. And so, but it never did. That's not what ended up killing her. And Nathan, it took about 5 years for the tumors, his histamine tumors, to go away. And we think that it actually is part of a disease that I have and was finally diagnosed when I was in my 40s. I have Ehlers-Danlos, which is a rare genetic disease, and it affects the collagen in your body, and you can have histamine tumors. And we think that Nathan possibly had that as well, which may have contributed to him trying to self-medicate as well when he got older. So that's a possibility. Adam was born in 1985, and that was a surprise because I had such difficult pregnancies. I was like, if I had been in a wagon train, I would have been across by the side of the road. I would have never made it. So I was really just thrilled that we got the 3 kids. Kristen, because Jen died, we had Kristen for 5 years with no other children. And literally, it was magical. She was just magical. We look back on it, and we still can't believe we were just so blessed with her. She was an amazing human being, and she knew from when she could talk that she wanted to be a doctor. And when she was a little girl in her car seat, she would say, "Mommy, stop at accident. We need to help people." And she knew then, and she did. She became an emergency room physician. So she knew way back then. She went on mission trips in Haiti. She was a leader. She was with Doctors Without Borders. She was just amazing. And I don't understand. I think that's the hardest part of grief for us. And with Nathan, when Nathan got through the tumors and that, but then we found out that he had learning disabilities. His IQ was high, but he had learning disabilities. Thankfully, I'm a teacher, and my minor was in special ed and learning disabilities. So I knew how to intervene with him. We did everything we could. Everything. We intervened. I mean, I was very knowledgeable. I knew what to do. So we thought, we're doing the right things. God's going to take care of this. And, you had talked about sometimes we live this formula, we think. Like,
yeah.
You might want to say what you had said before, like that we.
Yeah, I think it happens to a lot of us, particularly when we are younger and when we're less mature in our walk with the Lord, that, we kind of sometimes see life as being a bit of a formula in that, if we do everything right in terms of what we think is right and what we're reading in Scripture, and then this is how our life is going to turn out. If we refrain from doing certain things, then this is how God's going to respond to that.
Right. Well, and unfortunately,
And that's not good theology.
No, it's not.
Because
It's not.
it's not true.
No.
Bad things happen to good people.
Yes.
Bad things happen to godly people, and bad things happen to ungodly people.
Right.
We don't get to control those things. The only thing that we can control is how we respond to those things.
That's the key. That really is the key. And that's where
Yeah.
we can get help from God and
Right.
how Christ taught us to live. That's where how we look at how do we respond to it. It's a broken world. That literally what we live. I didn't realize the truth of that until I think when they had put him on some medication for his learning disabilities, and it was before they had found out that medication can trigger bipolar in kids who are susceptible to bipolar, and it triggered a manic episode when he was in high school, and he ran away. He was in 11th grade, and he ran away from the school. He had a total meltdown, and we didn't know where he was for 3 months. We didn't know if he was alive or dead. And the principal had called me and said, we don't know what happened. And it was just such a shock because he was so well liked. And he was just an amazing guy. His heart was as huge as could be. And he would do anything for anybody. I showed dogs in the show ring and that, and he would go with me to dog shows, and he would be the raffle ticket seller for like big shows, big ones like that are on TV. Like he would do stuff like that. I'd take him to school when I was an administrator in school, he would like help people in the offices and that. Everybody loved Nate. In fact, he was the kind of guy like Norm at Cheers. When he walked in a room, everybody would be like, Nate, that's the kind of guy he was. Just a super, super guy. And it just broke our hearts I think that's when we finally felt the brokenness, was when he ran away and we didn't know where he was. And we were broken. We were just like, we had gone through Jen's death like 30 years prior to that. And now Nathan is gone and we don't know if he's alive or dead. And Kristen had gotten into med school. She had finished med school and now she was an intern. And she had a simple medical procedure done. And the guy that did it incorrectly. And she ended up with 3 bleeds in her head.
Oh,
and
no.
The thing is that she told us that she said to her father, Dad, I'm bleeding out in my head. I know I'm bleeding out. And she was in the ICU. And we told that doctor, and he didn't do anything. And finally, I went and got her supervisor in the emergency department and said, you've got to come upstairs because they're not listening to us. And they did find out she had a massive stroke. There was a 10% chance of her living.
Oh gosh.
And this was after she got married in between college and med school. She met a great guy. Andy was just an amazing human being. And they served the Lord together. They both went to Haiti together in mission trips and stuff. We loved Andy and his family so much. And I truly believe that, God's intention was that Kristen and Andy were to have a full life here. And that Andy's mom and I were to share grandchildren together. That's what God wanted for us. But we live in brokenness, and our lives intersected that brokenness. And those things were taken away from us. And that's the part of grief. You feel, not only do you feel a failure, like that you didn't protect or do enough, you can't help it. No matter if it's not your fault or not, you still feel that. That's true. But you also are like, what did I do wrong, God? What did I do wrong? I was doing everything right. What did I do wrong? And that's hard.
I think most parents experience some degree of that or other. I know Kathy and I did, and I've talked to so many others who have as well. But I think it's just part of being a parent because it's our job to protect,
Yes.
it's our job to nurture, and when something happens that's out of our control, it's hard to process that when it relates to our child.
Yes.
It's different when it's, we experience lots of losses in our lives, whether it's a parent, which is expected. We know that that's going to happen at some point, or a friend or a grandparent. But we just don't expect it to happen with a child because it is out of the natural order.
It is out of the natural order. It's against everything that God ever intended.
Yeah. For you, Roxanne, how did you walk through this 3 times? How did you do this without getting bitter?
There were times I was. I mean, that's just it. There were times I was. I really think that you have to be honest with God, and you have to be honest with yourself, brutally honest. And I think God, I know God can take it because I've lived my worst nightmares, and he has walked with me kicking and screaming through that valley of the shadow of death. He's done that with me three times, and then just 2 years ago, Andy died. And so we lost Andy as well, who was a son to us for 15 years. Kristen and Andy were together 15 years. They were married 11. And so, we had experienced other deaths. I lost my best friend when I was 14, and that was difficult for me. I've lost grandparents, I've lost aunts, uncles, I've lost a cousin. When we were in Tulsa in a ministry there before we had kids, one of the girls in our Bible study was murdered. And so we went through that loss. And so we faced evil. And that's what it is. It's evil. For us, after Kristen had the stroke, there was 7 years of her in and out of hospitals. She got over the stroke. So we thought, wow, another answer to prayer. But yet she had problems with her pancreas, and we don't know really why she died. Nathan, he got his GED because he had dropped out of high school, and I ran a really large GED program. He got his GED, went to college in Arizona, and Adam joined him, went to college there too. And Nate graduated with honors from college and was clean the whole time in college. So we thought, okay, we're all right, and Kristen's going to be all right, and it's going to be okay. Adam ended up with seizures, and we nearly lost Adam. We went through 2 years of him with narcolepsy. He has narcolepsy, but he's learned to live with it and that. And thankfully, we still have Adam, and he's married, and his wife that he married had a child already. So we have a grandson who we didn't get. I never got to go through having a child, see my child's child. I never got to see that. I never got to hold a baby because when Danny came to us, he was already 6 going on 7. But he is as much my blood as if it were true that he was from Adam. But he's 13 now. I had to give up. There's so many things along the way that I've had to give up. I'm a teacher. I did GED graduations and stuff, and yet my kid dropped out of high school. Kristen didn't get to fulfill her dream she was a good doc. She was a really good doctor, and everybody loved her. Nate died first, 30 years after Jen died. It was Thanksgiving Day, and Nate was home from Arizona to cook Thanksgiving dinner and have Thanksgiving with a huge. I'm the eldest of 6, and we have a huge family. There's like 40 to 50 people at our Thanksgivings and Christmases.
Wow.
So but he was out with some friends the night before. The last thing he did was and thankfully he did this. he said, Mom, I love you. We're going to have a great time tomorrow. We'll cook together, because he was a really good chef. He was he was a manager of a restaurant in Sedona, Arizona. And so on Thanksgiving morning, we found him on our living room floor. He was lifeless. I didn't scream or anything. I just dropped to my knees and started CPR and told Craig to call the 911. We got him pinked up again. We thought we were going to do it. We really thought it was going to happen. But God gave us this. I can't explain it. It didn't happen with any of the other kids, but with Nate it did. He gave us this overwhelming piece of, it wasn't audible, but it was audible to me. I've got him. Don't worry, I've got him.
Wow.
And I think that God did that because he knew how much we needed to know.
Yeah.
Although Nate had gone down for several altar calls and had, he had been up and down and up and down. And so, but, it's their own personal relationship with Jesus. So
Right.
So you pray that, yes, they have that. But Kristen, we knew for sure because she really lived it. Nathan lived it off and on. But so, and literally, the dust had not even settled on Nate's grave. And 4 months later, Kristen was found dead in her hospital.
I can't imagine.
And
cannot imagine.
Now, I was out for the first time since Nate died. I was out for the first time with my friend and her 2 kids. And Craig called me and was just, Kristen's dead. And I screamed then. I did. I just lost it. And we drove to Toledo, which is like 2 hours away, where she was at an internship there, because she had gotten well enough to get back into another internship program. It just didn't make sense. None of this made sense to us. It was like,
no, it doesn't.
It was like, okay, I answer this prayer, and then I'm going to dip you in the fire again. And that's just how our life has been. For, like I said, we'll be married 53 years this June. And that's what it felt like. So I can remember coming home from Toledo. We walked in the door, and there were still flowers and cards out from Nate's funeral. And we were getting ready to prepare another funeral for our firstborn. So our firstborn, our secondborn, and our thirdborn were gone. They were not, our family felt shredded, just shredded. 3/4 of our family was gone, and Adam was left.
Wow. That, by anybody's definition, that's too much.
It felt too much. It felt way too much. And honestly, I think we just were numb. For the first time, I didn't feel that closeness to God. And I even said to my minister, I don't feel it anymore. It wasn't that I didn't believe in God, and it wasn't that I didn't believe in eternity, because that's the one thing that kept holding me on. Kristen died at Easter. So Nathan died at Thanksgiving, and Kristen died at Easter. I'm like,
wow.
Like, what? Are you kidding? And like, happy Thanksgiving, happy Easter. And I'm like, no. But yes, actually, yes. It's been 47 years since Jennifer died. It's been 15 last Thanksgiving since Nate. And it'll be 15 next week for Kristen. I finally, in the last 5 years, it's just been in the last 5 years, I'm finally so grateful that those children were mine and still are.
Wow. It takes a lot of faith to be able to come to the point where you can say that. And it takes an incredibly close, intimate relationship with Jesus to be able to come to the point where you can say that, not only to yourself, but you can say that in a public arena for other people to hear. And I'm glad that you shared that.
Well, I've told people that literally I felt honored by God. He knew, because he has foreknowledge. I don't believe he did this to me. I believe that it's the brokenness here. But he knew this was going to happen to me because he has the foreknowledge, but I have free will. So things, that's a whole theology thing that, we'll never completely understand, probably until we're home with the Lord. But I tell people that I feel honored that he chose me to be those children's mother, because they were very special children and they had a limited amount of time here. And what we had was beautiful.
Yep. And they each one left an indelible impression on their mom and dad.
Oh, so much. And the thing is, I tell other grieving parents this: our children are not just part of our past, they are very much a part of our present. We carry them with us. You never move on past your child. You carry your child with you and you move forward towards your child. And
I haven't heard anybody else put it that way. And I'm glad you shared that, because that really is the visual that we should keep with us, is that we are moving. If we know our child's in heaven, we're moving towards them. Every day we get older, every year we get older, we're moving towards that reunion with them. And that's an incredibly hopeful thing to focus on.
that's how we grieve with hope. That's
Exactly.
and that's the
Exactly.
scripture we have on. We Kristen and Nathan are buried with one headstone. It's a big headstone, and it's brother and sister, and it says, "We do not grieve as those without hope." That's what's on there.
Yes, that's from 1 Corinthians,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I mean, 1 Thessalonians, I'm sorry.
Thessalonians, yes. Well,
Yeah.
Jennifer is in another section in the cemetery, and it was really interesting. When we buried her, we saw a lot of she's in the baby section, and so a lot of people were like precious baby or precious angel or whatever. We decided that's our daughter, so we put daughter of Craig and Roxanne Hutchison on her headstone, and
that's sweet,
because that's who she is to us. I don't think she's a baby anymore. I think she's whoever we are. I'm not going to sit and rock her one day, and unless she sits on my lap as a grown adult. But I will share life with my children again. I think what happened, the numbness, we got through that Kristen's funeral, and Craig and I, then I was reading, of course, everything I could. And Craig, he has done some seminary work, and we taught Bible studies, and we taught parent groups. We had parent groups in churches and everything. We were like, okay, what are we supposed to do with this? Even when Jennifer died, they did a videotape of us that they use in hospitals of how to work with parents with neonatal deaths. So we've always done something positive with whatever's happened to us. When Nathan was going through problems with self-medicating with drugs because of his bipolar, Craig wrote a Christian AA thing. And I know people say, well, that AA is Christian. Not really. It's not. So Craig wrote one, and we were able to get it approved by the courts so that other kids could use it for the requirement of their AA meetings. And we held that at the church. But when Kristen died, for a year, we both were struggling with, I tried to write a blog. I couldn't do it. I did like maybe three blog posts. That was it. We took a writing course. I'm a pretty good writer. I was a grant writer, so I'm a pretty good writer. And so we thought, well, we'll write a book. And we thought, and we even there were people that were calling us to speak. We were just crushed. We finally got to the point of where we were just wore out.
Yeah, I understand that. And, I think it's Psalm 34:18 that tells us that God is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit. And what you just said triggered me going to that particular scripture, because that is very descriptive of a parent who's lost a child. We are left crushed.
Yes.
And only the Lord can help us to come out of that very dark place into life again. And, one thing I would I'd kind of like to turn the conversation to something at a very practical level that people on the outside don't see about our lives after we lose our child. And it's, the reality for people after the funeral, after our child's funeral, everybody else goes back to their normal, routine, everyday life. And time seems to stop for us,
Yes,
the one who's grieving a child, and nothing seems normal again.
because we're not.
But we're not, right, and we never will be.
No.
I mean, we'll never be the same people again. But the things that we have to do in everyday life, like going grocery shopping, going to the drugstore, going back to church again, going out to a restaurant, or even like the hair salon.
I can remember
That's not,
after Jennifer died, I remember I had Kristen in a grocery cart and we were getting groceries, and I saw someone with a baby that would have been Jennifer's age, and I just left the grocery cart right in the aisle and walked out of the grocery store. I
yeah,
couldn't do it. I was surprised at how little support I had. There were only, especially with the stillbirth, there's very, very little support.
yeah.
When Nathan died, there was only 4 months there, so people were just starting to drift off. They give you like 3 months. They think 3 months is it. And I'm like, no, you don't have a clue.
Just barely starting at that point.
You're just coming out of a coma maybe by a year, because you literally, that whole first year, you're just like walking numb. And
yeah, you're in shock.
And then the second year, it's like a realization hits you. And so a lot of times that second year is even more difficult than the first year.
That is so true.
Because the reality of it, like, no, they're never going to celebrate Christmas with us again. We're never going to get together again.
So what's it like for people who maybe they're listening today and they're not the one who's lost a child, but they know somebody who has? It's a family member, a friend. For us, you just referred to going back to the grocery store. What people don't understand is that going back to doing those things that are so routine that we really don't have to think very much about.
Triggers are everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. They are triggers. And when we try to do those things, sometimes we can't even do it. I remember one of the things that Kathy, my wife, struggled with the most was going to the grocery store. And she told me there were so many times when she would drive up in the parking lot, she would park and have every intention of going in and getting the things that were on the list, and she could not bring herself to get out of the car. And so she would turn around and go back home.
Absolutely.
And those were things that I could do for her because I could do that. I don't, it affects everybody differently.
Well, that's it. And that's it.
Yeah.
We've got to understand that grief is as individual as the relationship you had with that person.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So I'm telling you my story from my perspective but there are many shared things that we have in common, but everybody is individual. The best advice I can give to people, and I don't even like to call it advice, but the best thing the most common thing I've seen is that please don't try to fix us because we're not fixable.
Oh, amen.
It's not something to fix. God, why would it be in the Bible that God will dry our tears one day if we're supposed to stop crying here?
Good point.
My tears still come, and I know that they won't stop until God himself dries them.
Right. And we're not projects that need to be fixed.
No.
After all. We're people who have experienced severe trauma, and all we really need from most people, I think you would agree, is quite often just their presence.
Absolutely.
Sometimes I think people get anxious and worried and feel like they're going to be a failure in their efforts to try to comfort us or to encourage us. And so sometimes they just stay away and they don't do anything, when in fact it's so simple. Just show up and offer the gift of your presence. And if they want to talk, they will.
Right.
and all you need to do sometimes is just simply listen to them, be an engaged, active listener,
Right.
and let them talk. But please don't offer advice.
No, and you don't want to hear you don't want to hear scriptures. You don't want to hear cherry-picked scriptures. Not
No,
at the early stages. When
no, the time will
the
come,
time will
but not
come.
early on.
Right. The time will come, but you have to get those feelings out. And if you can't talk it out, if you can't have somebody listen, you're not going to be able to talk that out. So there were very few people, and I'm a part of several support groups that are online, and I write to several people. And the most common thing I hear is that there's nobody that will listen. People aren't there for me. And it's like they're avoiding me. Grief is so isolating. For a long time, I actually even got angry. Like about the 3-year period, I was like, I am just angry. Like, where are these people? I thought, especially by the third child that had died, I thought, oh, surely they'll be there for me. No,
Not so.
no, not so. Not so. And there were a few. There were just a few. And you know what? What I found out is that those were the very special few that God put in my life. And they helped me through it, and I will forever be grateful to them for that. And we have such a close relationship. The other thing I had to realize is that there are some people I had to let go. They
Yes.
are not my friends anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that does happen, and it's very consistent in so many conversations that I've had with other guests, Roxanne. So many people want us to, I think what they want is for us to be who we were before. They want us to get well, and they want the old version of us. They don't
Absolutely.
like the new version.
Yeah. In fact, I've had
And
people
we
say that to me.
Yeah,
We
but we
just want
can't
the
give them
old
the
you
old
back.
version.
And I said, that's
Right.
never going to happen.
There is no old me
No.
anymore.
No, I'm forever
Right. Yeah.
changed. And
Exactly.
I think what people don't realize is that the death of a child is not a one-time event. It's not an illness
No.
that you get over. It is a lifetime of lost hopes and dreams. Every milestone, every holiday, even like I at Christmas, we get these cards with everybody's families that are just growing huger, more huge and more huge. And we're down to 5 people. We've got, and I had 4 kids. And people who had 2 kids have like 30 people in their families. And sometimes it's really hard for me. I can remember the first few years when I would get those cards at Christmas time with the big family pictures, we threw them out.
Yeah. I can understand that.
We couldn't even look at them. It was
Yeah.
like,
Sometimes you have to protect yourself. It's I know we both have talked about this together. That Ron Deal, who was a guest of mine just a few weeks ago, and talks about the grief garden.
yes.
And you have to be so careful about who you allow into that grief garden.
Absolutely.
There are people who are safe, the people you were just describing, who get us. They may not understand us, but they have embraced the new us, and they still love us, and they're willing to do life with that new us.
Yes.
And they're kind and compassionate, and they are willing to listen and treat us like normal people again, even though we're not normal.
Right.
But to treat us normally,
And I would say to those people that might be listening that haven't lost a child, but do have a friend or a family member that has, honestly, if you can be that person for them, because there's very few of them, it's a very sacred position. It is a gift
It is.
to you to be that person. The few people that did that for me, my heart is so full of love for them, because they didn't just say, oh, what can I do to help? They just did it. They would come
Exactly.
pick me up and take me someplace. They would get me out of the house. They would call me. They would talk to me. They would take me to the grocery store, or they would go get groceries and just drop them off at my house. Those
Right.
kinds of things. If you can do that for people, it's got to be an active thing. The problem that we have in this society is we do not know how to do lament or grief very well. And
No, we don't.
we don't talk about it that much. Some of the best people that helped us, Michael Card does a lot of things with lament. Jerry Sister, I think he did a grief disguised and a grief revealed. He did them 10 years apart, and he lost his wife and daughter and mother in
the same accident.
And his books really helped me. So, and like Mark Vrogoff's book, Dark, I can't remember what the name of it was. It's Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy. He talks about lament. And Tim Challies, Seasons of Sorrows, he talks about lament. Michael Card's A Sacred Sorrow or Hidden Face of God, both of those were things that taught me about lament. And I finally, what I just started doing was praying the Psalms and reading Lamentations and really working the grief. And it is work. It's hard work.
It is.
There are people that really can't do it. And like I said, for a while, I was really angry. I'm finally to the point now where I've forgiven them, because honestly, you cannot understand what it's like to have your child die unless you've gone through it.
Right. And we don't want them to understand.
Want that. No, I don't want that for anybody, because it is horrible. I think for the first time in my life, I really understood how broken the heart of God was when we rebelled and left him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came into a fellowship of suffering with Christ is where I went. And that's who I am now. I had a head knowledge of God. I could talk, I could write, I could do all these things. I did word studies in Greek and Hebrew. I was really good at all of that. But now for me, I just want God's presence. I love to be in nature. I love to be helping people. I love, not that I didn't do a lot of those things before, but it's like, that's my life now. It's a very real, it's just a reality for me. Prayer isn't just a scheduled thing. Like, it's a daily dialogue. It's just a constant dialogue.
Right. I like that. It's a dialogue, a conversation that goes on continually. Just, different parts, different times of the day.
Right.
Different things can trigger it, but it's a just sort of a continual conversation.
It's not so much that I'm seeking knowledge about God is like I used to. Yeah. I'm seeking God. I'm seeking his
There is
presence.
a difference. There is a decided difference.
And I think when you think about, especially at Easter, we just went through Easter, and you think about how God took human form and he went through betrayal and hunger and even death he went through.
Yeah.
So that he could identify with what we go through. Jesus knows everything that we're going through. And the problem is that people, they think, well, okay, he's resurrected, so why aren't things better? Why are bad things still happening? Because it's not done yet. It says, it's in 1 Corinthians 15. 1 Corinthians 15, it says that the final enemy is death. But that's when he comes back and finishes that off. What he's done right now through dying on the cross, that literally was God on a cross. That's what, when I look at it's not just Jesus, that's really God on the cross. That's a humbling feeling to feel that, to think, wow, that's really the creator of the universe is doing this for me. And what he did was he removed the power of death to separate me from him. That's what he did then. But we still are living in brokenness. We are still fighting the battle.
On this side of heaven, we will continue to do that. But the key is having him with us in those battles and in those challenges.
Yeah.
Let me ask you one final question because we're going to run out of time here.
Okay.
Roxanne, what has grief taught you about living?
Just how precious it is.
Yeah.
And how precious we are to God himself. The gratefulness in my heart, I can't even explain it. I can't explain my faith to anybody else. It's not a logical, rational thing. What I tell myself is when things happen, I have to say, either I don't have the mind to understand it or I don't have enough information yet. And I have to then trust God. And it's literally taken almost 15 years to really rebuild that trust in God again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not uncommon. And if that's how you're feeling today as a listener, just know that you're in good company. It's not unusual for people to feel that way.
Right.
God sees you, he understands you, and he still loves you regardless of what you're feeling. And despite the fact that you might be feeling like that there's some barrier between you and God, there's really not. And if you'll just continue to lean into him and be honest with him about that, he
Absolutely. Yeah.
will.
Authentic.
Yeah, he'll help heal that.
I think my faith is more authentic than it's ever been.
Yeah.
It's more real. It's more true. And honestly, I have more love and gratitude than I ever dreamed I could have.
Yeah. And that's something that's a huge gift that's come out of something so incredibly tragic and horrific that you can say that today. And I did want to ask you this too. I said that was the last question, but this just triggered another one. So for somebody listening today who just needs something to hang on to, was there a particular passage of scripture that the Lord really used in your life, Roxanne, that was just like a lifeline for you that you would share with our listeners?
The tether for me is that there is nothing that can separate me from the love of God that's in Christ Jesus. And that's from Romans 8:38 and 39. For I am convinced that neither life nor death, neither angels or demons, or the present or the future, nor height nor depth, nor powers or anything in all creation can ever separate us from the love of God that's in Christ Jesus. I love that scripture. That is what I hold on to. And he has never let me go.
Nope, and he never will.
And he won't.
This is an incredible way to close our conversation today. I appreciate so much you sharing that, and I hope that offers some hope and encouragement to somebody else who's listening today. And Roxanne, thank you so much for your transparency, for your honesty, and your willingness to share all that you have today from the heart of a mom who has been crushed so many times, but who has come through to the point where God has done so much healing that you're able to sit here today and express the joy and express the hope and the faith that in him that you have today. I know that's going to make a difference for people that are listening.
We're supposed to comfort others with the comfort that we've received. And that's what,
precisely.
That's why, I put off doing something like this for so long. So this was the right time to do it. And so I thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, I'm so glad that you did. And I am so thankful that you were willing to be my guest. And
it was a fun day.
I think it was fun too. People that are listening have no idea of the fun that we're talking about. In order to get to this point and have a successfully recorded conversation. So
and not giggle.
God does have a sense of humor.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roxanne. And for our listeners, Thank you for tuning in and listening today. I hope that you'll rejoin us again in 2 weeks to hear another story of hope and healing in the life of another grieving parent. Thank you. Well, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this episode encouraging and helpful. If you did, would you mind taking just 1 minute to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts by clicking the link provided in each episode description and then sharing with someone you know? And as always, thank you for listening.